I invite you to join me, to participate in this inquiry into the miracle of our souls, to become part of the psychic connection.
Peace and love. What's up, YouTube? Naeem here. Wanted to make a short video talking about consciousness, attention span, brainwave frequencies, and something that the futurists like to call the singularity. Okay, so you can look up Ray Kurzweil. He's an author and an inventor, a futurist, and he writes a lot about the singularity, and that's the idea that through technology and the internet and what they call the Internet of Things, that we're going to get to the point where every device and every person and every object is communicating with each other through a network, like through the internet. I wanted to talk a little bit about the organic singularity, which is the one we're already living in, the one that already exists in reality, and can be demonstrated through remote viewing, intuition, synchronicities, and all those types of things that happen in our lives that have caused people of old to talk about everything being connected, right? So the ancient civilizations, there's a particular thing about them that all the researchers find when they go around and look at all these ancient structures, specifically the architecture of a lot of these structures. There's an ongoing similarity between all these structures all throughout the world, and so researchers like Graham Hancock have talked about there was some great civilization that was spread across the whole world in the past. I want to relate that to the idea of the organic singularity. So the singularity that Ray Kurzweil and futurists talk about is to be brought about through technology like the internet and tiny wireless receivers and the Internet of Things. The organic singularity uses our consciousness and our bodies and is built into the fabric of what we call reality. There's a lot of distractions in the world right now, so we all trained to use these cell phones, and we're constantly looking at them. They're constantly pulling our attention away, because we're accessing that. We're starting to access the singularity, the man-made singularity. Because we're information hungry beings at our root. We're constantly processing information. That's basically what we're doing all the time. Even when you sleep, you're still processing information. You're still having visions and having experiences. So this whole idea of the singularity is kind of like an antithesis to the organic singularity. By us being trained to constantly divert our attention to these digital screens and devices, we're not focusing on our inner screens, the imagination, the imagery of the mind. We're not relying as much on our inbuilt intuitive abilities. So the organic singularity has always been here. It's always going to be here. But our ability to access it maybe, it is reduced. I mean, most people don't even believe in this kind of stuff, regardless of whatever types of experiences they have in their life. It's just out of their reality box, kind of what I was explaining in my prior video. So it's important to start, especially in these times, there's something going on in the world right now, if you haven't noticed. And, your freedom of thought, your ability to make your own decisions, to make up your own mind, all those things are being reduced in these times, you know what I mean? And there's a push towards authoritative information. Only information from certain sources is going to be considered legitimate, or even anything else outside of those norms will be unacceptable. So it's important in these times to start investigating yourself. Start using your mind again. Don't rely on technology for every little thing. This is like a slow training, or a brainwashing, however you want to consider it. Over time, it'll get to the point where we don't flex those mental muscles anymore, and so we're not going to be sensitive to them anymore. There's going to be no reaction. We're going to be out of touch with them. So the organic singularity is accessible right now. Remote viewing structures and remote viewing practices is a great way to start exploring that singularity. The storehouses of information that are available to your mind right now. Excuse me. A lot of people live their daily life in a beta mind state. Watching television and staring at these screens all the time actually does slip you into an alpha state. It can slip you into an alpha state. If you've ever been playing video games or watching TV, and maybe your parents or someone is calling your name, trying to get your attention, and sometimes they got to say it 3 or 4 times before you kind of snap out of it and see like, hey, yeah, what's up? So that's an example of kind of slipping into these other mind states, and the technology can do that. The technology can pull you into those states because they have strong imagery as well, and the subconscious communicates through imagery, which is another kind of like what I'm getting onto here, is that if we stop using our imaginations and our intuitive imagery, the images that come across our minds, if we stop using those and rely fully on the images coming from the outside through technology, well, you're basically being fed information from a single source, or from a controlled source, however you want to see it, and that's shutting us off to the greater reality of ourselves and the interconnectedness of everything that is already interconnected. We don't need to lay another wireless connection or a wired connection anywhere, and all the information you're seeking can already be accessed in some shape or form. Back to the idea of the ancient civilizations, a lot of scientists are scratching their heads. Researchers are scratching their heads on how they could have known certain techniques, or how did they communicate. It seems like these ideas were communicated over vast distances across this plane. Well, consciousness and the interconnected nature of it is, that's a big hint, but it seems like a lot of the mainstream researchers and intellectuals aren't very familiar with the idea of remote viewing and the amount of detail that's possible to communicate through it. If they were, these kinds of questions wouldn't be as blurry as they seem. This whole idea of telepathy or communication at a distance is always by most people perceived as a very low resolution, non-specific route of communication. But as shown through remote viewing practices, we can bring this level up to very high levels, especially in groups with the right analysis and the right teams working on these kinds of things. High-level data can be retrieved through remote viewing and communicated across distances through remote viewing. So there's the Internet of Things, which is coming into form every day. New devices are gaining wireless access. Wireless receivers and transmitters are getting smaller and smaller. Higher frequency communication networks are being formed, like 5G, 6G, all these kinds of things, to the point where everything, the vision for the futurists is that everything will be speaking to each other in real time, right? So everything will know everything about everything uh, all at once, so hence the singularity. Um, there's already the singularity that we're living in right now. We have, obviously, we have the physical world, which has an appearance of separation and division. But anyone who's done some diligent study on consciousness can experience the interconnectedness of all these things. And even people who haven't maybe studied consciousness, people have breakthrough experiences in their life or have psychedelics. So when it comes to attention spans, through the use of the technology, the cell phones, the social media, our ability to hold focus is being reduced. We're getting trained to just take in like tiny little sound bites and memes. And there's nothing wrong with sound bites and memes. It's not that nothing can be communicated through them. It's just to really have high resolution contact with non-local information. It requires a sustained, focused intention. So, not only just focus intensely or deeply, but to hold that focus and attention for extended periods of time. And, a lot of the kids they say these days are, have ADHD, attention deficit disorders, and most people can't really keep their mind focused on something if it doesn't have some kind of overexciting stimulus in it. Like Hollywood movies have all the animations and the sound effects and things to keep people pulled in, keep their adrenaline, keep them focused on it. Imagine those people now trying to hold a focus internally where, when you first start doing it, it's just silence and seems like nothingness. You always have the example of the person who tries to meditate for the first time and they close their eyes and they're just saying, well, all I see is nothing. There's nothing. You know what I mean? I don't get it. Well, we're gonna have to start getting it, folks. It's important that we start discovering ourselves, because we're gonna lose ourselves to the technology and consensus or authoritative norms. We're gonna lose ourselves to the norms. We're gonna have to give up our true nature to fit in the definition and the restrictions of what other people have made for you. In conclusion, I've made a presentation on intuition, non-local perception, and I touched on some of these concepts in there. The two philosophies, the two overarching philosophies in the world of materialism, the division, the idea that everything is divided and discrete from each other, and the only way information can pass is in some kind of physical sense or through the five senses. And then there's the other side, which is the interconnected, interdependent model, where everything is in a flux, all things are communicating with each other at all times, and they influence each other and take influence from each other. So I'll leave a link in the description to that video below. If you like to get, a deeper understanding of what I'm talking about here in terms of information, expression, consciousness, levels of consciousness. So yeah, check out that video in the description, and check out my website, www.thefeedbackloop.info. I'll leave a link down as well. To check out more of my videos, see some demonstrations of remote viewing, and learn a little bit more about the greater reality of yourself. So thanks for listening, y'all. One love.